I just want to go back to the way things were. You know what I mean? Like when we were complete strangers.
Yeah.
Remember that before,
and that's where this episode starts.
You're not Eric and I'm not Matt, and we both don't hate ads, right? Am I right?
Is that yes?
You
Are
see how I
we
did that there?
are we rebranding?
No, I'm just showing my creative and linguistic dexterity.
Oh, is that what you're doing?
I don't know. I might be. So I am excited today because I got to pick. This week was my week to pick. All right. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
When Matt picks some doozies. Matt has a pretty strong track record of ad picking for Eric and Matt like ads. I like to think that I know how to bring it too. And I believe that this week I have brought it.
Brung it?
It's already been brought, right? Isn't that from like a Bring It On? What's that name? It's like the cheerleader movie.
Yeah.
Bring it on, brought it on, bring it on.
Proud to say I do not know. I know of what you speak, but I don't.
You see, Matt, flamingos, do you know that they molt? I think that's the term. They lose their feathers. All right. So when that happens, they are actually white. Flamingos are white. And it's something that's about like, no, or is it something to do with when the females have babies, baby flamingos, and the baby flamingo, something about that process causes the dye that they get from the shrimps and different things that they eat, because that's where their pinkish kind of color comes from, right? It causes it to be stripped out of their feathers. It's something like this, all right? If we have any zoologists, if either of our moms are a zoologist and could just throw something in the comments, we'd appreciate that. But that's what's going on there. So clearly we are not looking at a shirt that is comprised of female flamingos who have recently hatched younglings. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, now that we've cleared that up, thank you for that. Really.
So I do feel pretty good about our selection for this week. And really our selections kind of selections. I feel like we're throwing it back to episode 1, where we kind of did an adventure through a campaign, and that was Snickers, the You're Not You When You're Hungry. So I feel like we're kind of doing a little bit like that. We're going to have 3 different ads that we're going to be viewing today, all part of the same campaign, all containing the same. These actually are all containing the same characters. That's a little different. The Snickers had different characters. This is all the same characters in this campaign. And these are these are the contemporary. So I think commercials people, that both of our moms are going to be familiar with. And so you like it when I bring it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just don't ramble on too much, right?
You mean like I just did?
Maybe. No, of course not. No, I agree. I think this is a really good campaign.
All right, so I say we just give the people what they came for,
what they want. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Just give me a moment.
Or in other words, do it to it.
So when in doubt, just say, let me talk to my manager.
Next, Carvana's 100% online shopping experience. Carvana lets people buy a car, get this, from their couch. What? Oh, how disruptive.
No salesman there to help me pick out the car I need.
I mean, how does anyone find a car on this site without someone like us checking in?
She's a beauty.
Oh, golly.
I can help you find the color you want.
That sounds nice.
Let me talk to my manager.
Buy your next car 100% online with Carvana.
I'm going to start by saying that, so when you told me about this, you texted me the ads, and I thought that it was something slightly different. And I actually said to you, like, this almost worked on me because I literally about a year ago, we had to buy a new car, and Carvana was definitely definitely new to me, right? And I had heard about it, and I had seen like ads, and I took a look, and even got whatever, pre-qualified or whatever it is. Went through the process. It was incredibly painless, and I really, really, really liked the experience. And then I bought a car at a dealership anyways, which I think that there's something there, right? Like a little nugget of truth there, because like this ad very effectively like associates all of the negatives of like the dealership experience with like the benefits of using Carvana. And it probably intentionally ignores like the one big detractor of using Carvana, and that's that it is a different experience. It's change, right? Like we have always bought cars pretty much the same way, right? Like, not much has changed in the world of going to a new or used car lot over the years. Maybe it's a bit less like it was 40 or 50 years ago, where, our car salesman, like maybe a little bit less cliche, stereotypical car salesman. Maybe, I don't know. I don't really know. Because I wasn't there 50 years ago or whatever, but
This just in.
under 50 years old. Anyways, but no, I like, so I really like how they do that though, like how they like match the negative with the benefit, right? The negative experience with the benefit of using Carvana, because it's not just like, hey, this is how it is there and at a dealership, and this is how it is with Carvana. It's just like this neat little kind of like story of here's this sales meeting, which I think pretty much everybody knows exists, and even if they don't, it's pretty clear, they flash the message, or the title right in the screen. But right, like, and each one of these that we're about to watch kind of speaks to another negative or challenge that people, something that people hate about dealerships. What I wish it did more of is speak to how difficult it is to get over that something, like that this is different, and and maybe that's obviously the point isn't to tell the whole story. It's to get you to check it out, and then they can kind of talk about those feelings, like on the website. But it was my experience that they didn't really, like they tell you all about how everything's going to go on, how they're going to deliver the car, and you have, I forget how long to essentially decide, like, yes, this is absolutely the car for me. But man, change is like a difficult thing to sell, right? Like, so I think, in that sense, like they are tasked with an incredibly difficult thing to do, and that's communicate that change isn't bad. That this change is really, really good, because you don't have to go to the dealership and go through, all of these little, hurdles or whatever, other than that, some of the things that kind of jump out to me is I recognize both of those guys, both of the actors. Can I tell you either of their names off the top of my head without like Googling it? No, I can't. And I think that was either intentional, or maybe they just couldn't afford big celebrities, but I think it was intentional.
I love it. I'm glad that they did it. I think it makes it better.
Absolutely. because one, it's enough that I recognize them. Like that's all I
Yep.
need, right? Like, and it makes me think about it, right? I'm like
Yep.
thinking like, who is that guy? Oh, wait, who is that guy? Because the bald guy is the one that I recognize the most, right? And that might just be me. But it took me a moment, but I was like, oh, actually, I know that guy too from something. I don't really know what.
Yeah.
And really, I think that there's nothing wrong with getting, I mean, like that is like, that's part of the point of advertising, is to get the ad to stick in people's heads. And if at the very least, if you're, especially nowadays, when the only reason I didn't look it up is that so that this would be an authentic conversation of me not knowing who it is, like, normally I would probably look that up. I would be on IMDb looking up something that I thought that the bald guy was in. I would probably figure out that it's actually a different bald guy that I'm thinking of, and then I would eventually figure it out. But all the while, still with this Carvana thing in my brain, I mean, you can't pay to keep, to stay in someone's head that long. So I think that that's like, if that was the intention, it's brilliant. Even if not, like accidental brilliance is just as effective, I guess. So that's really where I'm at with at least this one and kind of like the overall campaign.
Yeah. Where to begin there? So the idea of the actors, whose names also I do not know. My reasoning is a little less, I'd say, pure than yours. I don't know, because I just didn't look it up. I just literally just did not prepare well for this. But I'm a professional, so I'm going to make it look like I prepared. So I see that in ads where they use voice actors, but the voice actor is actually a famous actor. Yes. And you recognize, you're familiar with the voice, and you're not sure, you're trying to place the voice. Now, some are like, when Morgan Freeman does it, it's okay, that's Morgan Freeman, right? Like when James Earl Jones does it, it's, oh, that's James Earl Jones, right?
Sure.
But there are examples. Ed, is it Ed? Gosh, what's his name? The dude that plays Al Bundy from Married with Children, and plays Jay from
Modern Family.
It's Ed, right?
Yeah, what the hell is his name? Why
this would be great. This is the shtick. This is the shtick this episode. We're not going to have anyone's names. You're not going to know them. We're not going to remember them. But yeah, he's in some, and it took me a minute to figure out that it was him. And there's other examples, female actors that also, and I feel like the brands, they do that. And I love that. I love it, because they're not trying to just like trade on the celebrity factor of the persona or personality, but these people are excellent at what they do, and they add something, because they're really good actors, right? And they add something to it. And I think it's cool when brands do that in ads. What appeals to me about this campaign, it's expertly acted, all right, and it's super humorous, and I like humor, right? I like it, and humor is really, really complicated and difficult to pull off. So when you see someone doing it well like this, it's like you just want to applaud them and say, wow, bravo. So I appreciate that and can praise them for that. But it's all the stereotypes, man. Like, we're going to watch a couple other ads here. It's all the stereotypes. They nail them. They nail all the good ones, and they do it so well. And the entire time, like I know one of your criteria for an effective ad is it true? right? You know, these ads are so true. They are so true. We've all had that experience, right? That cliche experience. And one would think, and I have some friends in the automotive business, and they are amazing people, and they do really great things for their customers, right? But at the same time, these stereotypes and cliches persist. And it's probably easier said than done. But I'd like to think that if it were me, that would be like page 1 of the playbook is we are going to address all of these things and make sure that all of these things that people are just waiting to have happen, right, will not happen, right? Like the respecting of your time, the respecting of your intelligence, right? The not trying to, the got to talk to my manager kind of thing, it's a perfect example of that, right? But that does happen, I had an experience getting a car, the last car that we got for the family. And I'm even reluctant to share like exactly what happened because like I want to be polite, right? And I want, I don't want anyone
now I think you have to
figure out figure out where we got that car and then be like, oh my gosh, the salesperson who was really kind and was, I'd say, fairly attentive, but younger and seemingly less experienced. When we were there to pick up the car, told us, and it took forever. We got there expecting to pick up this car, which is foolish in our part because you don't go to a car dealership and do like anything quickly, right? You just don't. It just doesn't happen. And we're there to pick up the car, and we're waiting and sitting in the cubicle, and we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting, and he's kind of coming in and out. Okay, I don't remember like, oh, this person's working on this paperwork, this thing's happening there. It's like, why is none of this stuff done?
Right.
Why is none of this stuff done? Right? Like you said to come in. You said to come in. All right. We're here with our kids. All right. You said to come in. All right. And he comes back at one point and explains that they're shorthanded and whatever. And also goes on to tell us that one of their assistant managers literally just walked off the job while we were there, literally quit and walked out. And I'm like, okay, someone needs to tell this guy that that's something you don't tell your customer. Right. You do not go tell your customer that one of your assistant managers literally just like walked off the job. We're here to buy a car.
Yeah, right. And also even if it like was something that wouldn't really negatively impact the customer, right? Like let's say that guy walked off for some reason that wasn't like, hey, this is a shit place to work. Maybe don't buy from here.
Right.
Like, not my fucking problem, bud. Sorry for the F-bomb again. God, I keep doing
we
that.
Can beep them. We can bleep them.
I know.
We have the technology.
But right, like that's not your problem. Like
no.
Why?
Of course, it's not my problem. No, it's just bad. It's bad sales. It's bad, bad salesmanship. It's bad customer service. It's just bad business, right? And then in addition to that, we got a visit from the F&I guy, because of course you're going to get a visit from the F&I guy. And I get it. I understand how they run. I know what they're doing. All right. And by the way, so does anyone who's not worked or had a business relationship with a car dealership. They know what you're doing, which is why this Carvana thing like works. Right.
Right.
And he was honestly a nice guy, really nice guy. And, but was like a complete caricature of himself, and a complete, like what you would expect from that kind of like chummy, trying to like be friendly and like build rapport, like too enthusiastic, not believable. Right. And Meredith and I are both there, and we're listening, of course, because we're polite people, and we're listening to the spiel, and what he's pitching us is wheel insurance. Because, right, exactly, right? Because nowadays, you could crack a wheel on your vehicle. All right. You could crack a wheel and you could hit a pothole, like anything could happen. And by the way, I've never seen nor heard, I'm sure it's happened, but I've never seen or heard of anyone ever cracking a wheel on a new car or a car that is even just a few years old. All right. We're not, by the way, this particular car, we're not planning on having for more than a few years. Okay. Right. So there's that. And then he's going into how they're low profile wheels. These are low profile wheels. Oh, he's looking, because they actually eventually pulled up the truck or whatever and we happened to be in a cubicle that had a window and it was literally like right there.
Yep.
He's looking, oh, whoa, you got those low profile wheels, huh? Well, hitting curb. I mean, he's going into this like we're gonna we're gonna be like going around, and I get it. Like you hit curbs, you can scuff your rims and stuff. It happens. But just pressing hard on this, and like halfway through his spiel, Meredith can't contain herself, and she bursts out in laughter. Like kind of like not like in his face, but he's not that far away from us, and I have to kind of like. And she, by the way, Meredith is a very sweet, kind, caring, compassionate individual who would never intend to do that. But that's my point. She could not even, the last person in the world that would happen to, she could not contain herself. That's how ridiculous it was. So when Carvana, and I'm not the only person, we are not the only people that have had that experience. So when Carvana does an ad like this, immediately you're like 100%. If someone could solve that problem, boom. But at the same time, there's the inertia, to your point, of how this business works, right? And how long will it take before we get comfortable with the idea? As much as we loathe the experience of going to a car dealership, how long will it be before we feel comfortable doing it without it? How twisted, right? How twisted is that?
Right. And me personally, after having gone through the experience just recently again, while thinking maybe I should do this Carvana thing, I think the next time I buy a car, it will likely be online. I am not a car guy. I don't know if that came through yet, but I am not a car guy. We literally this car that we bought. Now, also, this was early pandemic. We were gearing up to buy a car. We are absolutely drive it into the ground type people. We like to keep the same car.
You should get the rim insurance
for as long as possible. Not really drive it into the ground, but you know what I mean. Literally, let's use this car until it's much older than almost all other cars on the road. But it was right in the beginning of the lockdown pandemic, all of that stuff. So we were kind of rushing, and we definitely rushed the the process. We didn't go to see as many cars as normally you would, because you had to schedule an appointment per car. Even if you were at the same dealership, at that time, you had to schedule an appointment per car that you wanted to go look at. So we bought the first car that we saw because we were like, screw it, it's in, and it worked out. If it had not been a good fit, that
of course
would not have happened. I'm not an idiot. I'm not a total idiot.
So it lucked you, in a way you lucked out that it was the right car, made sense for your family, and you didn't have to go through the headache of doing it again.
But here's the point. Yes, exactly. But here's the point that I'm trying to make here is that we test drove it. Okay. It's this wasn't a brand new car, but it was. So this was a year ago. So it was a 2-year-old used car. You know what I mean? Pretty much all 2-year-old used cars, unless somebody was doing something awful with it, drive pretty much like a brand new car. It had 28,000 miles on it, so.
The car that I drive was like that. You save a ton of money doing that. Meredith's is a lease. That's why I said we're only gonna have it for a few years. Hers is a lease, but I bought mine and I did the same way. You save a ton of money doing that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, of course. But so like the point there is that I had gone online and selected the car and then bought it. But I inserted this big long thing where I had to go in rather than just doing it.
It's a ritual. It is. It's a ritual.
Carvana. And to be fair, the guy that I dealt with was very similar to the the person that you dealt with. Was younger. He had blatantly admitted to us that he had only been there for about 6 months and hadn't sold that many cars. And that might have just been a line.
Technique. Right? It could have been a technique to get you to have empathy for him. Undeserved misfortune. Oh, the underdog. We're going to help you make quota this month, buddy.
And he tried kind of like all the typical, like, oh, let me go talk to my manager, or there's no way we can do that. Well, if you want the payments to be this, why don't we do? And it's like, no. I'm not talking about the payments. I'm talking about the price, right? Like, I mean, that typical stuff that every financial guru out there will tell you. Don't worry about the what the payments are, because they will make them what they need to be. Yeah. But yeah, like, this is why I say, like, I test drove it, but unless you're buying an 8 to 10-year-old car, like, what do you need to really test drive it for? Yeah. Right. Like, especially with cars these days, right? Like, look at so it's a mid-size, like, kind of crossover type car, right? Like, it's not quite an SUV, but it's not, like, get into a Honda CR-V, a RAV4, a Kia Sportage, and drive them all, and they're all pretty much the same, like. And there's like the differences in the price because of like how long different cars hold their value and stuff like that. But that's a decision you've already made.
So if you get a tough question, just say that's standard. Everyone pays it. Next. Carvana lets customers pick up their cars from one of their giant car vending machines.
So gimmicky.
Who's falling for this?
Millennials, they love experiences.
Yeah, people who don't like to be hassled.
That's boomers.
Zoomers, they were born online.
Influencers.
Who else?
That about covers it. That's everybody. Still,
these car vending machines, big swing and a miss.
Check out the new way to buy a car with Carvana.
Oh man, come on, right? Like, gimmicky, right? Like, there's nothing more gimmicky than a car dealership, all right? So, like, that's hilarious. That's hilarious to me, all right? They say that, they name all the boomers, the this, the that. I don't know. Yeah. Just like, it's all hilarious to me. It's so true.
And actually, this didn't occur to me until just right this second, but I really like that they go through like the generations and actually name them as generations, because typically when I think of that, I think of people using it the wrong way. Like, oh, millennials love this and boomers love that. And it's like,
no, everybody loves this.
Right. Like, but like, that's why it's good, is because like, it's clearly not true, but also in this time, they actually like found a way to bring people together, kind of.
Yeah. Right. No. Yeah. Good point.
Like it was like, oh yeah, like the boomers and Gen Z, and and it's like, well, everybody hates car dealerships.
Yeah. Right. It's so good. And so like getting into like the kind of like the psychology, I guess, or whatever, I don't know what to call it, of the structure of the ads. Like, so what is the concept? The concept is you've got two people that are representing the dealership, the traditional model, making fun of Carvana. All right. But the ad is actually a Carvana ad. Yeah. So Carvana is making fun of themselves through the role playing of their competition, but doing it in a way that makes Carvana look awesome and hits on all of the weaknesses that are perceived by the market of their competition, the car dealership.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It is brilliant. Think about that, right? That is so smart, so well done.
That part, yes, that part is smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And also love that each of the commercials starts off like the first one, I think, was a sales meeting, like Wednesday, 7:35 a.m. This one's a car dealer meetup, right? Like, yeah. So like all the it's like, what is this? Is this like all the families in the mob, right? They're all meeting up, right? To deal with this like new, whatever force or threat that's coming to town, right? Like, it's hilarious. Car dealer meetup. And that was at Monday at 7:46 a.m. I love that. I love the specificity of it. It's just, I don't know. And the fact that like the car dealerships are getting together, like almost like they're conspiring against Carvana. I don't know.
Sure.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
And they're there. So I love the delivery of it, right? They're there sharing like different tactics on how to screw over people, right? Yeah. Like, this is stuff that they had to say in order to make their
just
point.
Tell them it's like standard. You just tell them it's standard. Everybody pays that.
And they're doing it in a way that isn't like, this is what they do. They're showing you like, this is how, like this is what they do. They're actually showing you. And then he's like, all right, now Carvana, they've got this new
car vending machine. How disruptive.
Yeah. I love the how disruptive thing,
Oh man, you're right. You're right. Good point. And this is, again, like, the more you think about it, it's just a really well-crafted strategy. The creative strategy is so smart, like, you got to respect it. It'd be interesting. Like, if I was in a car dealership or in that side of the biz, I would pay attention to this. I'd be paying attention to this. Absolutely. I'd be like, all right, that's not good. Now, what they have, again, as we mentioned earlier, and let's not spend too much time on this, let's watch the third ad in a second, but they have inertia, right? But here's the deal. We used to say this about the phone book. All right.
Yep.
I never said this. It's a bit crass, but I think it's true. It's like, the phone book, they say, well, it's dead, but the body hasn't turned cold yet. Right.
Oh yeah.
It's a little crass, right? The spirit's gone, but the body hasn't turned cold. It makes you wonder with like, if this whole model of purchasing vehicles online and doing it in a really friction-free way, like, is the writing on the wall? I honestly don't know enough to know, like, if that's the case, right? People make claims like that all the time. Oh, this thing happens. Oh, it's going to be the end of this, television's the end of radio, radio's the end of print, blah, internet's the end of no, it just changes things, right?
Yeah, but I think it's I mean, you're talking about like actual media to deliver like content or messages. I think this has the potential of like being a new Amazon, right? And to be perfectly clear, if I were Carvana, I'd be worried about Amazon eventually just like taking my business away from me, because that they have the ability to do that 100%. Which is a point that I will make maybe after we watch the third one. But people did not trust buying the simplest things online at one point, and now they do. Like,
right.
I mean, a lot of people, I would never, I can't buy shoes online. I got to be able to try them out, and now pretty much everybody buys their sneakers online. And
all clothes, all sorts of things that you thought you had to be in person. You're right. Well, so Amazon, and I get that, and that's a really good example. Amazon definitely gave department stores issues, like Sears. That's a problem. Like Sears was the first Amazon in their day, right? Yep, and then Amazon absolutely. Sears, right? But I think like getting your groceries delivered at home, is that going to get rid of like people going into a grocery store in person? I don't know that it's going to. It's
So
going to change the way some people shop and how you get some of your groceries. But like to think that at some point they'll just be delivered to us, I don't know. So like think about, do you think there's a segment of the market that just like wants the experience? Not everything's bought online, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. 100%. Like 100% agree with you because, like I probably live a little bit more in the space where people are going to go out there and say like, oh yeah, well, everybody buys stuff on everything online. It's like, well, absolutely not, like no way.
Not true.
No. However, I think things that have a ton of friction in the buying process, like buying a car, it is
ripe for picking, right?
So
they leave
like
themselves more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Sure.
So okay.
Remember, you can call your customers chief, just never big guy.
No.
Next, Carvana. People can sell their cars to Carvana entirely online. Customers answer a few questions and get an offer in 2 minutes.
Where's the back and forth? The dance.
The poppin', locking in the deal. The cha-cha of changing the offer.
And then pulling them in close and whispering those magic words. This offer is good today only.
Sell your car in just 2 minutes with Carvana.
Oh, dude, the pop and lock in of the deal. And then those, maybe the best line in all of these, leaning in close and whispering those magic words. This deal is good for today only. And there's, but like the truth just like erupts from off the screen, right? Like it's so good because you're like, yes, that is what we hate about the traditional idea of a car dealership. That right there sums it all up, right? You get the sense that it's all about them and you're there to serve them, right? And I feel like, again, Carvana just like, obviously that's the whole concept behind Carvana.
Right. So I want to bring up kind of, I don't know, maybe the elephant that will enter the room at a certain point, right? Like Carvana is one of the ways to buy a car online. There are others now. Sure. I don't know if Carvana was the first and also I don't care, neither does the market, right? Like they don't care who was first. They care who has the best brand and whatever. Mm-hmm. And as branding people, we should probably talk about this. There is one called Vroom. They had a pretty well liked spot on the Super Bowl this past year, I think. I remember seeing it around then. And then maybe so I've already made like the example of people buying people used to be reluctant to buy shoes online. Now they do. Tying it back to Allbirds, right? Are you familiar with Allbirds? So Allbirds has this like pretty hip looking shoe that only people that look like Erik wear. But no, I'm just kidding.
They are the most comfortable footwear I've ever owned, dude. Holy crap.
Sure.
It's like walking entirely on birds. And I think that's where they got the name from.
I don't think that would be very comfortable. However,
well, have you tried it?
Little Disney birds carrying you, right?
Yes. I think they're getting more to the yes.
Okay.
Floating.
So my point here though is that Allbirds sort of like built popularity, I think, without really building a recognizable brand. The shoe looks like what's hip right now. What happens when that changes in?
I was gonna say, I think that Allbirds might be a fad. Yeah.
Right.
Are they a fad or a trend? You want to be
and
a
also
trend.
And also I can go buy the exact looking pair of shoes for half the price on Amazon, and it's literally an Amazon essential or whatever whatever Amazon's brand of clothing is. And I get the same look, right? I get the same like cachet when people look at them, on the street. I got my AirPods in, I got my cool shirt on. I'm a hip guy. I got my Allbirds, So not that Carvana is doing this or not doing this well. I would just say that, like, I think, and going back to earlier when I said they have a really difficult task because they need everybody to want to buy online. And maybe this is the right way to do this because the rising tide raises all ships. All right. So like if I'm Carvana, I want people to buy from me, then Vroom, and then all the rest. Right. Like if I'm Tesla, I want people to buy a Tesla, then any other electric car, then all the rest, right? Like, but you're still competing with all of the rest. Like, is this tracking? I don't know.
No, I get it. I got you.
So like
you're trying to establish a category, right? And you're trying to change consumer preference. Absolutely. You can get them to adopt, and you want the bell curve, right? You are the middle of the bell curve, right? You want to get those folks up and in.
But eventually, if that category is created and is successful, like, you also want to be the Coca-Cola of the category. You don't want, you know what I mean? So
that's
like,
first
I don't know that
almost always it's the first that does that.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean,
Usually.
Oreos and what's the other one? The Hydrox, which is the first Oreo. Like, well, they didn't win, So I don't know that.
Yeah, you can find the exceptions, but I think the
wins.
rule is that the first in wins. That's the rule.
Rules are meant to be broken. And
and some
also
things are
living
easier to say, but doesn't make them true.
I mean, Amazon wasn't the first bookseller online, and certainly not the first online retailer. There was CD Now that Amazon eventually bought because they did better. Overstock.com, which was like a really, really big thing. They got into trouble with Google at one point, and it kind of almost destroyed their business. I think that while I'm usually reluctant to say that, things online are different because they're online, I think this is one of those cases where, maybe like building categories is somewhat different than it used to be because information can be disseminated as quickly and as fluidly as it can now.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Carvana and Vroom started at the exact same time for consumers, right? Like people who, and really like most of the public will look back probably in 2 or 3 years. Let's say this category is created and is successful. They will look back and say, oh, that started a few years after it actually did. Probably a few years from now.
Yeah.
So who was first in? I don't know.
Yeah.
Was it Carvana? Was it Vroom? Was it some company that's
I
going to...
It's the chicken. Oh, wait. The chicken?
Or the egg?
Someone's got to be first. Anyway, I think Carvana ads, I think they're great. That's the point. The point is I think their ads are great. I think they're hilarious. I think they are super truthy. I think
these are very good ads, but and
attention grabbing and holding. They're the kind of ads you want to see again when it comes on. You're like, oh yeah, I want to see that again. And like I try to, it doesn't mean I always hit this, but I try to, when I create ads, I try to create ads that people are gonna be like, I want to see that again. I want to hear that again.